Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and we're back with another episode of 10-minute testing for the One Piece trading card game. In this series, we'll be showcasing a deck through competitive gameplay and analyzing its position in the upcoming meta. So get yourselves a drink, and we'll get straight into the card by card. In today's video, we're going to be exploring the new black deck coming out in OPO3, and that's the leader, Rob Lucci. Now, Robert here, we're on that first name basis. He's pretty interesting. He's a very different leader that we've had to all the black leaders that have come before him. If you look at Sakazuki, you look at Smoker, and you look at Garp, I'm going to count him as a black leader. If you look at these leaders, they are very focused on cost reduction and allowing that cost reduction to lead into the knockout effects that black has. Rob Lucci and the CP9 gang kind of changed that mold kind of drastically. For set 3, they want to do something completely different. And now we're going to get to a little deck profile here. This is a list that I got from the One Piece Top Decks website. They had topped one of the events in the East. I'm going to use that as just a nice basis. Once again, when this deck comes towards the West, it'll most definitely get changed a little bit, modernized, equipped to our Western meta. But let's get to a quick little card by card so you guys can understand what Rob Lucci does and what the CP9 engine is meant to do. And then we'll go into some games. So really quickly, Robert Lucci. Your turn, once per turn, you may discard 2 cards from your hand. When your opponent's character is KO'd, set this leader as active. Very different effect than any other black leader has had before. So you're using your hand as damage, which is something that they've been using a lot in set 3. This is very akin to Ace, right? So if Ace wants to deal more damage, he doesn't have to attach more Dawn. He just has to remove cards from his hand. Very similar to that for Rob Lucci. Now, he's a 5-life black leader. And that effect may not come up too often, but that effect is also very important, right? Black has a lot of big, heavy hitters. Your Navy Admirals, the majority of them don't have any counter. You might not have to use them in a game. There's a lot of cards in black in general that you don't necessarily always need to summon, and they're just kind of like extra cards in your hand that you can use to restand this leader and make sure to have either be an aggressor or use it as a clear option, which is really, really nice. Now, we're going to be playing a couple of cards that we've seen already from OPO2, just very powerful Admiral cards. We have Sakazuki, removing a 5 costed card or less from the board. Now, we're playing him at 3 because we don't really have a lot of cost reduction in this deck. The cost reduction really comes from a couple of cards that we already know and love. Suru, one of the best black 2Ks. This is akin to Otama, very similar card if I wanted to put a card to another. What makes Otama just a little bit different than Suru is the fact that Makino exists in the same color, which makes an Otama a possible attacker, where Suru will most definitely never attack, right? But she does have an effect that's really, really nice. Reducing something by 2 in combination of any other reduction or destruction effects is really, really nice. Her and or their other 2K Tashigi allows for you to go ahead and have some cost reduction and manipulation. The issue with these cards is that you're using your 2Ks as reducers, which is not necessarily something that you want to do. And since your leader doesn't have a reduction effect already built in, you're kind of tied and not being able to use Sakazuki as much as you would like to with other previous leaders. So we're not maxing out on him, but he's still just such a powerful tempo card that you can't afford to miss out on him. We're going to be playing 4 Borzolino because one of the best cards printed in the game just so happens to be Borzolino. 4 cost, 6k blocker that cannot be destroyed by card effects is absolutely incredible. And the new Admiral that has really joined into the mix that has taken place of your top end that was Kuzan is Isho. Now, Isho is a really, really powerful card that comes in OPO3. For those of you that don't know what Isho does on play, so he has an on play very similar to Kuzan, but his on play is very different. It says if your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, they must trash 2 cards from their hand. Now, that's very powerful. He comes down and he basically, imagine him just and again, it's random cards, so they can be either their power plays, it can be their heavy counters, it can be any specific cards from their hand. And this card can almost steal games on his own. He has a huge stat line as an 8/9, and also he has a continuous floodgate effect as well attached to him that says, Dawn ×1, your turn, all your opponent's characters gain -3 to their cost. So this is the card that really is going to allow you to Sakazuki people, to really knock people out by effect, is the Isho, as he brings cards down by 3. And by 3 means your Sakazuki can knock out any 8 cost or higher cards. Not only that, his stat line is crazy, really easy to defend, as well as the fact that he rips 2 cards from your opponent's hand is really, really good. So if you can go ahead and swing at their life, swing at their board, make them gain life, right? If you can go ahead and swing, they take 2 life, and then you go put them above 6, you go Isho, and now they're in for it's almost like you banish the cards from their hand, which is really, really nice. He's a very interesting and card that you're going to be seeing a lot in the OPO3 meta, and you're going to see a lot of people play around this, and some decks can't even afford to play around this. Like Whitebeard eats this guy every day of the week. Really, really strong card. Then we have Kaku, one of the new CP9 characters. He states, on play, you may return 2 cards with CP in their text from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. Knock up to one of your opponent's character with a cost 3 or less. Again, he combos off really well with Isho and Soru as well as Tashigi. He has a very similar effect to what you would say a Kobe would have. The issue, or the better part about Kaku, not even issue, is the fact that you don't have to discard a card from your hand. What you do have to do instead is return cards from your trash into your deck. So this is a deck that will never ever deck out, but it's also the fact that you have to set up for these knockouts with the Kaku. Then we have Khalifa. Khalifa is the 2K of choice from CP9. It says, on play, draw 2 cards, trash 2 cards from their hand, then give one of your opponents -2 to their cost during this turn. This is a 4K attacker for 4. You know, as a 2K, you probably don't want to be summoning this, but if you do need the aggressive cycle of CP9 characters into the trash, she will go ahead and get that to you. Then we're literally playing a vanilla 6K. There's a reason for this, but Kamidori is just a vanilla 6K, 1K counter that can go ahead and be revived by your other very powerful characters, but we'll get there when we get there. Then we have Spandam. Spandam is the Surger for the CP9 character archetype. It is the Nami, but it works a little bit different. Now, Spandam, what he says is if your character is CP9 in its type, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal 1 CP9 character type card other than Spandam, and then add that card to your hand, trash the rest, right? So in an ideal scenario, you'll go ahead and look at the top 3, you'll trash 2, you'll add 1, and now you've already set up for Kaku gaming. Then we have Fukudo. Fukudo is a really, really strong card. So he is a 3K blocker, similar stats to the old man for the Kaido deck that we used in OPO1. He is 1 cost more, but for that 1 cost, you get an amazing effect. Cannot be KO'd by effects. This card says, nice Vista, idiot. Really, really strong card. It's a blocker that's very, very sticky, and we love sticky blockers because they allow you to just go ahead and use your defense when you want to, as opposed to it being completely removed from you. Then we have Bluno. Bluno, one of the honestly best cards in the CP9 archetype. Unfortunately, he did not get an altar. This is the best you will get for him, but for sure he's going to get an altar sooner rather than later because it's so absolutely strong. He is a 6K blocker, so he has the queen stat line of 5, 6, 1K. He has to have 1 Dawn under it, so he's actually a crocodile. He's like a queen crocodile that states on KO, play up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less with CP in its type from your trash and rest it. So you can go ahead and block a 6K and then summon Kamidori or summon a Kaku or gaming, you know? You can't summon Kaku, but, you know, you wish. This is like a vanilla Kaku, I guess. And then we have Rob Lucci himself, the character card that states on play, return 2 cards with CP9 in its type from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. And then this character gains Rush. So he is a 6 costed 7K Rush that can go ahead and summon pretty much for free. Really strong card. Removal, hard to out. I play the Tashigis. We play the Impact Waves. Just general good black stuff. And then the new event card that came out for this deck is the Air Door. So we're using Bluno's Devil Fruit ability to stay main. If your leader has CP in its type, look at the top 5 cards from your deck. Play 1 character with a cost 5 or less with CP in its type, then put the rest in the trash. So this is a card that really, really, really accelerates your trash. And it also goes ahead and basically summons Bluno from the deck. Just kind of ramps you. It kind of cheats out a Bluno for 1, which is really, really nice. It has a great trigger. Play up to 1 black character with a cost of 3 or less from your trash. So you can go ahead and summon Fukudo. And all of a sudden you have this annoying little sticky blocker on the board. Little ball boy chop-pop looking at. And then you also have a general strong card, an event card that goes ahead and summons something that's really, really powerful. Not something we've really seen a lot in the One Piece card game. So I'm very excited to see how this deck does. So let's get right into some games. So we have our first game here, and it's going to be a grindy one versus Ace. So this is, if I remember correctly, a different Ace deck than I played, a more character-heavy Ace deck. My opponent opts to go first, goes Izo, grabs a card, and then I go double Spam Dam's whopping into what is a Kaku as well as a Khalifa. Now, these are very powerful cards in general. I think a lot of just the CP9 engine before I played it was underimpressed, but cards like Air Door, Spam Dam, and things like of that nature felt really, really strong. On the other side of the coin, when those cards whiff Air Door and Spam Dam and they just start trashing Navy and 2Ks, it does kind of feel really bad. So there is that necessary drawback. There's Bluno, literally one of my favorite cards in this deck, if not my favorite. That guy is crazy. I go 5 at the lead, see if I go ahead and trigger anything, and I go Air Door. And I'm trying to see what targets I can get. I'm surprised I can even get Kaku here. Kaku does come out of the air door, and I go ahead and shuffle back 2, pop an Izo. Now, the shuffle back 2 and popping the Izo was kind of irrelevant, but you basically paid 4 for a 6k to cycle a couple cards through your deck. It's not necessarily terrible. I can't really think of what card akin to this. This was basically like if I summoned a Marco, but worse, which I'm kind of okay with. By the possibility of hitting a Bluno off the top or a Khalifa for cycle or things along that nature, air door definitely seems very, very fine. So my opponent goes Jet Pistol on the Kaku. That's cool. And I'm trying to think of what I want to go ahead and do here. It looks like I'm going to go ahead and Rob Lucci, just curve it out. But I mean, Bluno's just too good of a card not to just play. I'm going to go ahead and play the Bluno, attach a Dawn to it to give it the blocker status. Not that it necessarily matters, but these sticky cards are going to be very important versus Ace, right? So Aces, as a deck, just has a ton of removal in the cards that they play, Pistol, Flame Emperor. So I'd want to play cards that cannot be KO'd and cards that, if they are KO'd, have on KO effects. So definitely Bluno was probably a better choice here, right? Because if I go Rob Lucci and he Flame Emperors me on curve, I'm going to have a really bad time. So that's why I made this play. Now my opponent goes ahead for a quick little think here, trying to decide what he wants to do. Again, these are going to be a couple of sped up games that we're going to go ahead and look at. So he opts to go Ace, and now Ace is really good into a blocker. And that's the thing about the Ace deck in general. It has so many avenues that they can go ahead and decide whether to take. So I believe I choose to take this 7. And then if I block, I can block the leader with my Bluno, and I can find I'd be fine triggering his ability in that scenario. But actually, just noticing that he's tapped out on Dawn, I go ahead and I block here. I summon back the Vanilla. Now, if he wants to go attack my Vanilla, he's gonna have to pitch an event card from his hand, which I'd be okay with. So he attacks lead, and I believe I counter here, or I take. I don't know. I believe I take just because I want to keep up cards versus him. My deck doesn't have as powerful removal cards as his, so I really want to go ahead and show him Moose Boss with just keeping hand advantage if possible. Now I go on to my 8 turn here, so I'm gonna go ahead and swing, force him to do some cards. And I'm gonna Izo here. I don't think I'm in any threat of losing the game just with the amount of sheer cards I have in my hand, but Isho is going to go ahead and just slam this guy into the ground, right? So removing 2 cards, I go ahead, I don't really check, it just, all that he had to do was remove an extra 2, and I definitely took another card on the attack, so felt really good there. He goes 7 at my lead, I take this again, and I'm getting dangerously low. I'm kind of doing a little bit of trolling, but you love to see it. So he goes Whitebeard at my leader, I believe. And yeah, I have to counter out of this one. I can't go down to 1 because 1 is a little too scary versus Whitebeard in general, especially in a deck that has like a lot of removal. And here's where I started getting a little scared. Now, dropping the little Chipapapa boy was not the move, as that card is not KO'd by card effects. I could have used it to chump block the Whitebeards, but I'm trying to decide what I want to go ahead and do here. I'm going to go ahead and 10 at the Ace. He's going to go ahead and defend it, and then I want to go 7 at the Ace. He defends that as well, and I'm going to go for that little, blocker that can't be KO'd. And that guy's just going to show how exceptionally powerful he is. The only mistake that I really do feel I made this turn was I should have swung with Lucci first, right? I think that's a very important part of the Robert Lucci deck, because you want to go ahead and see if you are able to KO something, if you can use the effect right after that. With 3 cards in hand, I'm not really afraid of dying. I just need to go ahead and block 2 of the attacks, and I should be absolutely fine, right? So, trying to see what he does here. He goes ahead and dumps the Flame Emperor. It goes for a 9, and I am able to counter out of a 9 without any problem, right? So even if I'm just seeing if he has any sort of rusher, what he can do. So he has the rusher, and I just have to combo out of a 7. And then he can't hit me with the Whitebeard. I just block, and back to my turn with 1 card in hand. There's just no way that he can handle his board, so I'll go 7. And that's another mistake. Should have put 1 Dawn on my Vanilla. Gonna go ahead and swing 9, and then fully swing here. Now, this wasn't the cleanest of games, but we'll take the W's where we can get them. Now we're gonna showcase a game that's a little bit more clean versus Luffy. So Luffy, still a powerful deck. Red in general, just, red. And he starts off with the starter deck Nami. Now, starter deck Nami is a little bit of a weird inclusion in the Luffy deck, but either way, any red deck really loves to see it on 1, as that's not a card that you can't really search in your deck. I mean, there are ways, but they're not real in the competitive scene. So starting off with that card is literally as good as it can get. So he's going to opt to go 6/6 here. And I do defend one of them because even though I do have the possibility of taking a couple cards here, I don't want to get too low too quickly versus any red deck, right? So it goes back to my turn, and I'm most certainly going to just door But because of that, I can't really attach any more Dawn. There is the argument that I could have just gone like really hard on this attack and then, gone spam dam or anything along that nature. But I didn't feel that, I could have gone like 7 spam dam or like 8 spam dam technically to use up all my Dawn. It just didn't feel like the way for me. So I just decided to air door, and I get rewarded by getting a Blue No, legitimately my favorite card. My goodness, the more you guys summon that card, the more you'll understand what I mean. My opponent goes ahead and plays a 5-drop Luffy, and he's just going really aggressive here. So he's just going to go 6/6/6 this turn. Really demon mode from my opponent here. So I go ahead and combo out of the majority of this. I'm going to choose to go ahead and pitch 2 cards here just because I want to set up the CP9 cards in my trash. When I use this Blue No, he can go ahead and just summon back the vanilla 4K, right? Anyways, even though Blue No is a very powerful card, you have to kind of set up for it to not be pistolable, if that makes any sense, right? If you have the 6K vanilla in your trash and you pistol it, it's almost like you didn't lose anything. So I'm going to go 6 at the Luffy, 6 at the Luffy. He defends it with a 2K. I'm just going base because I see him defending bases 2s on bases, so I don't have to go any higher. Go ahead and play Kaku, trigger the ability to shuffle back, trigger the ability of my leader to trash 2, and we're going to go into like basically the point where we have no cards in hand and we're just top decking, but I do have just better board presence, and because of that I should be genuinely in a better game state. So I think my opponent makes quite a mistake here. He does top deck another Rusher right there. There are a couple cards that were very scary for me to see in this position. A big vanilla like King Dude would have been horrible. But a Zoro is also on the top of my list of not great cards to see in this scenario. So I think he goes a little bit heavy on the Dawn here. He goes 9 on 6. I'm just not defending that. If I had 2 2Ks, I still wouldn't give it to you because you still have a multiple swing. So had you just, saved the Dawn there, would have been okay with it. I go ahead and trigger Blue No's ability to summon back the 4-cost vanilla. So, and then he goes 7 at my lead. I don't defend it. Then he goes 6, and I should have defended it, but I opted not to. Just didn't want to lose any more combo power, because when he's like no cards in hand, deadlocked, I can just go ahead and play however I so choose, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play a Blue No and the little Chapa, and we're good to go, right? He can't really KO this card. My Blue No is sticky, and my Kaku is just there for a good time. So he's down to 1 card in hand. He does have 5 life that we will have to chew through, but I don't mind being in this board state. So he goes ahead and pistols my Blue No. That's going to go ahead and summon the vanilla right back. So now I have, again, a scenario that even though he did find removal off the top, it doesn't necessarily matter just because of how strong Blue No is. So he can go 7 at my lead here, and if he goes 7 at my lead, I take it. If he goes at my leader, at my characters, I block it. So we'll see what he chooses to do here. Now he goes 8, which would mean I have to go in the rest of my hand, and I'm just not for that at this point in time. I'd rather keep these 2Ks. And then he goes ahead and charges up this Nami, charging up the laser here. But the Namis cannot hit for anything higher than a 5, and I'm not going to allow him to hit my leader for a 5 at this point. I'd rather keep the life, again, because it is Luffy. They do have cards that say cannot be blocked, and I just don't want to get in that scenario. And being at 2 life with 1 card in hand, it's almost impossible for him to win the game there. So I'm going to go ahead and swing over the Nami. 5. I'm going to put Attachadon first so I don't get pistoled in life. 7. 7. And then I'm going to Rob Lucci here and trigger his ability to shuffle back the Blue Nose and go in for 9, right? So basically my whole turn, he couldn't counter out of it. And yeah, I could have left the Rob Lucci in an unrested position, kept up 2 Dawn to just be like threatening for my opponent, which is another mighty fine play, right? Because then I can just, he'll be at 2 life. My fear is that if he top decks like a couple of cards that can clear my board here, then I'm left with 2 possible swings and a spam dam maybe. And that I don't believe really gets there. So I want to put him in the scenario of you must beat me this turn or lose the game. And me having just a 2K in hand and having just a leader, I don't think that's necessarily possible. Unless he has like the last 2 Zoros and some crazy Dawn placement. But he opts to go and plays the 5-drop Luffy. Now the 5-drop Luffy is fine here. If it goes at my leader, I take it. If he goes at my characters, I let it go. Nothing really changes here. I only need 1 more character card on the board with attacking stats to really win this game, to use my Dawn effectively. If he keeps up a Dawn, then sure, I'll attack life, see if he takes it, and then go for the Luffy. He opts to go for the Kaku and taps out, and him being tapped out should most oftentimes mean that it's over for him. I'm going to attach a Dawn to my character card. I'm going to go ahead and swing for 9 here and see how he reacts to the 9. Because if he takes the 9, then I go all in. If he doesn't take the 9, then I all in the Luffy. So regardless of the situation, I just think he's going to be in a very bad spot. So he takes the life, and I decide, well, that's more than enough. and that should be an all-in. That means he's going to need exactly 4 2Ks in hand, which I don't put him on having that, because they'd all literally have to come out of life. And that's the game. So we're going to go ahead here and play versus Katakuri. Now, this is a game where I believe I don't play too clean, but I believe we end up getting there. So he starts off with Charlotte Pudding. We're just going to go ahead and add him, I believe, a Big Mama, the 10-drop. Now, yeah, the 10-drop is a really, really strong card, especially in the Katakuri deck that can keep up like a lot of tempo and then finish it off with the 10-drop. Very similar to like a Luffy deck. You keep up tempo with your like mid-range characters and then go 9-drop. So he goes and swings at me with the Pudding, which is kind of troll, but we need a little trolling, to really get there sometimes. So I go Air Door. Air Door is going to give me the Blue No. Again, love when that happens. Actually cannot be a more fitting scenario. That kind of fixes my hand. I love this Admiral card, this A-drop, but people play around it so heavily, and I kind of try to force them to get hit by it, and so many times you'll see that doesn't end up working. So he's going to go 7 at my lead. I'm going to take it, and then he's going to go ahead and play a vanilla, basically a Frankie, or a worse Frankie at this point in time, because it doesn't even have the 1K counter. So I'm absolutely fine with that. He goes ahead and finishes his turn there, and I'm deciding really what I want to go ahead and do here. I go 5 at the leader. He just defends it. I go 6 at the leader. And I think I just go ahead and play a Sakazuki. I trash one of these 8-cost Admirals because I don't think I'm going to need 2 of them. As if I can go and get through 1, that'll be enough. So he went ahead and defended both of those hits, pitching 2 2Ks at this point. So again, dropping his hand size, which is very, very smart of my opponent. Opts to swing with the Sanji, trigger Sanji's ability. I'm going to go ahead and defend the 5 because I know I can easily defend a 5, but defending a 7, which is coming immediately after, is not so easy. So he hits me with the 7 and then plays a vanilla. Now he plays his actual Frankie for whatever reason he's playing. So I'm going to go 6 at the lead. And here I'm going 6 at lead because I was hoping that if he takes the 6, he'll go to 5, and then if he'll take the Sakazuki, he'll go to, to the necessary 6, and then I go ahead and play Izo and I clear the Sanji. That was my whole idea, but he opts to like pitch a card to, another 2K to defend off of the 6, and this is his 3rd 2K that he's played back to back. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Spam Dam, and unfortunately I double click here. Love the sim sometimes. I double click, so I end my turn immediately, but definitely was going to go ahead and play out maybe another Spam Dam to go get a little, deeper through my deck, and another blocker or something along those lines. Goes ahead and swings at me for 9, and 9 is huge. Then he swings, I believe this is another 9, but he opts to swing the 9 at the Sakazuki. Now again, that's kind of just a soft mistake here, because there's no reason for me to truly defend the Sakazuki. I mean, to defend my... If I'm able to defend my Sakazuki, if I'm able to defend my leader, right? If he's able to discern that, like, well, if I swing at lead for 9, and he was able to take it. If he swings 9 again, he's going to force interaction here or remove my hand. But if he swings at the Sakazuki, he doesn't really force it just as much. He's basically giving me a 2K in power just by swinging at it, which I don't necessarily think is the way to go. I opt to go ahead and swing at the Pero Sparrow, trigger my abilities, swing, try to clear the board as much as I can while pressuring, because I do know that the Big Mama is just coming, right? So the Big Mom comes here, I do just take a free block, and then he hits me with the Pero Sparrow. I have to defend this. And I opt to go for the Spam Dam. I don't really want to just dump more 2Ks. I need all the counter power that I'm going to have to get this game, and it's going to be a lot of blockers that really get me here. Now, this is one of the turns that's just, again, a little unclean. He takes this. I know that the Pero Sparrow is going to add him a card. He goes to 5, right? So if he just takes this hit, then I can Izo him, and I just feel like I'm in an okay spot if I get this. But he, again, 2Ks out of it. So I swung him with 6 because he's already 2K'd me so many times that I was like, well, if he doesn't have a 2K in this particular moment, he's going to have to pitch me 2 cards, and I don't think he'd rather do that. So, unlucky. Rubber ducky. I go ahead and I swing for 7. Deciding what to do with this Bluno here, and it's kind of a tough choice. Do I need him to block? Do I need him to go? And then I just attach a little bit too much Dawn. I was like, well, Borzolino is 4 cost, but I didn't make my Bluno a blocker, and if I'm not going to make him a blocker, I should have attacked with him just to apply pressure. So, again, an unfortunate situation. Either way, he does just, for whatever reason, give me a heal here, which is lit because Bluno did become a blocker. He should have attacked and been able to do, all the good things. But by giving me the heal, he basically gives me a little bit more time to work with, right? Because now I don't have to live, block all of his attacks. I can take one and then play the Bluno. So it's a very interesting spot that when he put himself in this category. So I'm going to go ahead and defend 1, block 1, and then he plays Pudding. Pudding adds him another 10-drop Big Mom. So I know that he has a 10-drop Big Mom and 3 cards in his hand. And then I have to decide really how I'm going to get through this hand. I'm going to go 7 at the leader. He takes it. Now, there is a universe that if he takes this 7, I just all in him, right? So I could have probably gone a little bit harder on my Dom, but then he gives me another 2 and a 1. So I'm okay with that. I go Air Door finds me another Bluno. My goodness, I'm sick with it. And then I go 9, putting him down all the way to 1 life. Now, he can go ahead and 10 drop me here, but if he 10 drops me, he can't lethal me. If he can't lethal me, then even through a 10 drop, and he's tapped out, I believe I can go through game, because at this point in time, I think he has like 7 2Ks in the trash. He opts to clear my board here, and I do believe that I see the Big Mom coming, right? But if I see the Big Mom coming, then I block with my Bluno, trigger, summon the 6K, and now if you Big Mom me, I still have 4 possible attacks to 2 life, so he can't do that. He goes ahead and opts to play the Pudding. The Pudding's going to go ahead and add him, a Brulee, so now I'm thinking to myself, well, he's probably going to want to play a blocker and Brulee versus me, which is perfectly fine. Let's see how he opts to end this turn. He goes 8 at 6, which is not terrible. I opt to defend that. Then he has to go ahead and he can't give me the Brulee. So he goes 7 at 7. I do have to give that. He keeps 2 done up for a possible defensive card, right? But if that's necessarily the case, then I don't think he can. So I know he has a Mom in hand, the Sovereignty, and Brulee in hand, right? So I know 3 cards in hand, and I go ahead, I count out the trash, and I count out exactly how many 2Ks he's played at this particular moment. So I go ahead and swing for 7. 7's probably gonna, if that went in, that's just perfectly fine with me. Now, at this point in time, I probably should have just gone like 5. Him giving me the Pero Sparrow is super troll because he just removed the card from his hand, but he probably just gave me the Mom anyway, which is irrelevant. He gives me the Sovereignty on the 9, and then I hit him for 10, and then most certainly I get through it right there. And we're back with the deck, and Rob Lucci felt pretty Gucci. Not for real, though. The deck felt very strong for a black deck. You know, when Smoker came out, Garp, and Sakazuki and OPO2, they kind of, they were very, very strong. Don't get me wrong. In the beginning of OPO2, we saw a lot of people playing black, and because a lot of people were playing black, builds have to shift a little bit, and it was a very interesting deck, and has matchups that are very favorable. I forgot to add Zephyr, but you know what I mean. They had a lot of favorable matchups, and they have a lot of non-favorable matchups. They were a very polarized deck. You were either a really strong enjoyer, or you just kind of like fell and crumbled to the very aggressive red meta that ended up taking over the West. Now, Rob Lucci and the CP9 engine in general is so much more tempo heavy, and the fact that they kind of replace, they're very sticky cards. You have Fukudo, which is a card that, just like Borzolino, is very difficult for red to out. I can choose when to block this card. This card can become an attacker. This card is a 1K counter. He's searchable. Very, very strong card. Not only that, but Bluno, he's a blocker. Great stat line. Sticky because he summons, a 6K or a 4K, and he cycles, or spam dam, and he cycles some more. Like, this card is so sticky, as well as Fukudo, which is a great addition to the black deck, which makes them be able to keep the board presence along with the red decks. Not only that, but you also get to play very powerful cards like Sakazuki, the Impact Wave, Air Door, Kaku, Iso for the control matchup. So this deck really can sort of kind of do it all, and you're getting all of that packaged with a Eustace Captain Kidd leader effect. Sounds great. I'm not gonna lie. I'm excited to see where this deck goes in the West. I was very impressed with how the deck performed in the games. I played a bunch of games that obviously are not being shown in the video just because I genuinely enjoyed the deck, and I'm excited to see how we go ahead and innovate it here in the West. I know it had a lot of success in the East, but definitely had some success. So I'm excited to see where the Lucci players are going to take this here in the West. But for sure, very, very strong deck. The one card that I want to go ahead and mention that absolutely blew my mind, besides the ones that I've already, quickly touched upon, is Iso. So Iso is such a warping card, right? And that's kind of like what these 8, 9, 10 drops end up doing. They warp the game around themselves in a sense. This one is going to make you play weird. You might not play around it for the first week. You might not play around it for the second week. But once you get hit by this card multiple times, you will most certainly fear being at 6 cards versus a leader that has the black archetype. Because this card on summon will almost genuinely just win you the game on the spot. I've had so many opponents, Ace players, Whitebeard players, Zoro players, these, classic red decks with 10 cards in hand. You just go Izo. They're at like no life. You rip 2. You have this 9K body, and now you're going to rip apart their board slowly but surely because of his Dawn minusing effect. And then all of a sudden, you're in a super winning and super favorable position off the back of one card. The card that obviously let me down is the Rob Lucci character card. Now, he's really cool. I wanted to play him. I know the list that I saw on OPTCG didn't play this card, but I had to play him. I think he's a really cool card. I wanted to see if he can really fit the deck. It has the same stat lines as the Rush promo Luffy from a billion years ago, with the CP9 little recycle effect added to it. It's just, at the end of the day, the non-counter power, the fact that it doesn't really immediately impact the board, and he can just be removed by black, by red, removed by kind of anyone, makes it so that the card isn't as good as the other CP9 cards that are just a lot stickier because they have on KO or cannot be KO'd effects attached to them, which really makes them stand out. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say. If you guys want to go ahead and let me know what Rob Lucci list you're piloting or anything along those lines, please leave a comment in the comment section below on how we can go ahead and improve this deck moving forward. And as always, guys, if you like this sort of content, don't forget to leave a like. And if you haven't joined the Pirate Crew and you're liking what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.